Hi. So, yesterday was my daughter's second birthday. And of course, I was so excited to be able to celebrate her birthday and celebrate all the milestones that she's made and celebrate her life with all of our friends and family. And in the middle of all the celebration and excitement about being the mother of a toddler, I also felt a sense of sobriety and deep gratitude. Because although yesterday was my daughter's second birthday, 2 years ago today, I almost lost my life just a few short hours after giving birth to her. 2 weeks ago, I attended the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C., and I attended a session on women's leadership. And I thought I was going to go to this session and learn tips on how to lead as a woman and how to navigate political dynamics of office politics as a woman. But I had no clue that I would go to this session and hear people tell the stories of women and the struggles that they face off. In this session, they talked about women's health issues. They talked about pay inequality issues. One woman talked about an issue that really hit home for me and struck me to my core. And I honestly haven't been able to shake her comments or the statistics that she shared. She began to expound on maternal mortality. And the reason why this topic in particular hit so close to home for me is because of my experience giving birth to my daughter. My pregnancy was mostly typical. I went to all of my doctor's appointments. I didn't make any major changes to my lifestyle. But one morning when I went to the bathroom, I realized that I was bleeding. And this didn't cause any alarm in me because I had experienced some spotting very early in my pregnancy, and now I was 26 weeks, and this being my first pregnancy, I didn't know what to expect, but since I had experienced spotting early, I thought, okay, I'll just give my doctor a call, and if she wants me to come into the office, I'll go, and she'll send me back home, and I'll go back to my life as usual. But boy, was I so wrong. By the time I got to the doctor and my doctor began to examine me, she realized that I had begun to dilate. And in fact, that I had dilated about 2 centimeters. And I was, again, 26 weeks pregnant. And at that time, she diagnosed me with an incompetent cervix. So she rushed me to another hospital and admitted me. And at that point, I was placed in hospitalization and placed on mandatory bed rest indefinitely. Now, the original plan was for me to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks and stop my body from progressing. That's Madison playing with her toy in the background. But that turned into me being hospitalized for 6 weeks. And during these 6 weeks, I experienced a series of diagnoses, and I had several issues happening with my placenta. The first issue that my doctor realized I had was placenta previa. Placenta previa is when the placenta is low in the uterus, and sometimes it can be so low that it can block the birth canal and cause women to have to give birth by C-section. That was the first diagnosis that I had. Later on during my hospitalization, my doctor realized that my placenta had divided in two. So I had 2 lobes of my placenta. One lobe was near the bottom of my uterus. The other one was at the top, and they were connected by some blood vessels. The last thing that was discovered in my uterus did not emerge or surface until I had given birth. So on September 22nd, my doctor came into my hospital room to do one final exam to see if she could release me from the hospital to go home and enjoy the rest of my pregnancy in the comfort of my home. Well, after she did the examination, she realized that I had continued to dilate to 6 centimeters. And at that point, she told me that there was no way that I was going to be able to go home and that I would stay in the hospital until 39 weeks, at which time she would do a scheduled C-section if my daughter had not moved from the breech position, because she had been breeched the entire time as well. I never made it to 39 weeks pregnant. Within the next couple hours, my body continued to prepare for birth, and I dilated to 8 centimeters, at which time my doctors looked at me and said, "Miss Douglas, you're going to meet your daughter today." And of course, my husband and I were excited, but also confused because we hadn't expected to experience any of this. During the C-section, my doctor did a phenomenal job of delivering my child, and hearing her first cry just made my heart melt. But I'll never forget a statement that she made after my daughter was born. She said, "We're not out of the woods yet." She said that because she realized that my placenta was not detaching from the lining of my uterus as it should have. And at that point, she realized that I had placenta accreta. Placenta accreta is when the placenta is not only laying on the uterine wall, but it is beginning to grow into the uterine wall and going into the muscle tissue of the uterus. And she did everything that she could to remove my placenta. And she sewed me back up and bandaged me up and sent me to recovering, believing that we had done enough to make sure that all of the placenta was out. Well, in recovery, about an hour or so after I went into recovery, I began to shiver uncontrollably, and I thought it was because I was cold, and I just wanted to get more blankets so that I could relax and get some rest. But I had no idea that I was hemorrhaging blood. And of course, I lost consciousness, but my husband witnessed this. He witnessed the blood just pouring from my body, and I was slowly bleeding to death. Thanks be to God that my doctors and through the prayers of my husband, I did not die, but I came very, very close and ended up having to receive about 6 units of blood. So my doctors, in order to save my life, they had no way of knowing how far the placenta had grown into my uterine wall. And so in order to save my life, they had to perform a hysterectomy in order to save my life. Now, I had waited all my life to become a mother, and I looked forward to implementing all the things that I had learned from my mother. I saw her struggle as a mother, and I just wanted everything. I just wanted to be able to do the lessons that my mother taught me to change the legacy of my family through the decisions that I made. So being told by my doctor that naturally I would never be able to conceive and give birth to a child again was devastating. Now, I do believe in miracles. So now I have an opportunity to believe for a miracle. But that's not the reason why I'm sharing this story, just to share my story. I need you, the child that survived the death of their mother after she gave birth to you. I need you to know that her death is not your fault. You needed to be here for this season and for this time, and your life has a purpose. Your mother fought to get you here. And she unfortunately gave her life for you to be here. And so we need you to be here. We need you to thrive and become all that she knew that you would be. To the dads that were forced to raise their children by themselves due to the death of their mother, it's not your fault. You are left here to raise that child with all the love and nurturing that mother would have poured into the life of that child. To the family members that are left not understanding why their cousin, their aunt, your sister, your niece is not here to raise that child. It's not your fault. You are left here as a part of the team to pour into that child because you saw the vision that mother had for that child in her eyes every month that she carried that child in her belly. So you are here to pour into their lives. To every woman that has gone through tough pregnancies, fertility issues, and survivor's guilt, this is not your fault. You were designed and prepared to give birth. You carry life in you. Be encouraged. Even though things didn't go the way that you thought they would, even though you've had some additional tests and trials on your motherhood journey, it's not over. Keep your faith. Keep your hope. Hold on to your dream because we need you. Mothers, we need you. So I just wanted to share my story only to let you know that there is hope and that it is not over. No matter what your diagnosis is, no matter what you've experienced, it's not over. As long as you know, and as long as there's breath in your lungs and breath in the lungs of your children, it's not over. So if you know anyone that has been impacted by anything that I've shared today, please share with them from my heart to theirs that things will come together. No matter how hard they've been, they will come together. Thank you so much.